so much, Wendy. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to everybody. Okay, I'm now presenter. So for everyone on the call, welcome today to this third webinar in the series about character strengths. And one of the things Wendy mentioned at the beginning is that I specialize in integrating positive psychology practices into project management and training and coaching. And one of the criticisms that's often leveled at positive psychology is that it's kind of, think positive. And that's actually a misconception, that it's as simple as that we think positive. The foundation of positive psychology is that when you start with what's strong, then you're in a better position to tackle what's wrong. And there's lots of research that supports that we're more creative, we find better solutions to problems when we actually start from things like what's working, what strengths do we have, what resources are already available to us. And so one of the things I do love to talk about is times when our character strengths that we've been talking about over the last couple of days don't serve their purpose as well as they could. And this happens quite often in the workplace. And I have an example that we're going to walk through and discuss. So before we do that, though, I'll just go over the agenda. We're going to have our mindful moment. Anyone who's been with us on either of the other 2 days knows that we take a pause at the beginning and the end of the session to have a mindful moment and just check in. I'm going to share a couple of character strengths facts and then also one personal practice, which will build on the practices that we have been discussing earlier in the week. So let's start with our mindful moment. If you haven't seen this flower before, there's a range of emotions shown on the flower. The emotions on the outside tend to be more mellow, more moderate emotions, and as you go into the center of the daisy, they're more intense. And I always invite people to take a moment as they're transitioning from whatever they were doing to what they're doing now. We're all doing that. We were doing something right before this session that engaged us in some way and left us with certain emotions, certain feelings. We do a check-in now and figure out how are we feeling as we start this session. Then we have more control over our response to what we're about to do. And I recommend this for project managers, particularly who are transitioning so often throughout the day from different calls and meetings and different groups that they're talking to, stakeholders, sponsors, the team, and so on. And to be able to check in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop talking for a few moments, take a look at the daisy, check in with yourself. No need to share this with anybody. Check in with yourself as to what emotions you're experiencing. And one tip is to remember that you can be experiencing positive and slightly uncomfortable emotions at the same time. So we'll just take a pause and we'll think about what you're experiencing right now. So we're going to come back to this daisy at the end, and I'll explain why we do it twice when we get there. In the meantime, think about those emotions that you identified. And these, as I say, this is just a sample of possible emotions. You may have thought of other ones. And think about which of those emotions are helpful to you now, that you want to cultivate and keep, and which of those emotions maybe you want to let be. And I say let be as opposed to let go, because when we let things be, we acknowledge that they exist, that there's no reason to fight and struggle against them. We just acknowledge their presence, and then we leave them alone. Letting go can sometimes, that concept of letting go can feel like, giving up that emotion, and we're not always ready to do that. So with that, we're going to move on to our character strengths piece. So our first fact today is to share that project managers have certain strengths that show up more in project managers than in the world at large, people in general. And this is based on some research that I did a couple of years ago with 460 project managers. And what I found was that project managers are more likely to report teamwork, prudence, and perseverance as high strengths than people who are not project managers. And teamwork, that's great. There are some great benefits to teamwork. Obviously, working alongside people is very important when you're a project manager. And at the same time, teamwork can sometimes be dangerous. And if we were in a session where I could ask you, and we want a bit more time, I would ask you what you thought about the dangers of teamwork. And I will share with you that one of the downsides of teamwork is that you can have people who are so dependent on working with others that they actually become less comfortable doing things on their own, and they're always looking to collaborate with others instead of taking something on and completing it themselves. So that can be one risk of teamwork. Prudence is the planning strength. And as project managers, one of the things that we do is that sort of prediction at the beginning of a project and then throughout the cycle of the project to determine what the plan is going to be with the assistance of the people that we're working with. And so prudence, the planning strength, is a great strength for a project manager to have. The downside of prudence can be that we can get into analysis paralysis and keep doing what-if scenarios and thinking about what if that happens that way, how do I need to adjust the plan, and what do I need to build into the plan. We can get stuck in the planning phase and be reluctant to actually start execution. So that's a downside, can be a downside of prudence. And then perseverance, the keeping going strength, the one that says, I'm not going to be thrown by obstacles, I'm going to keep pushing forward. A great strength again for project managers. Every project, I think, faces obstacles and we don't want to give up at the first hurdle. At the same time, there can be a downside to perseverance because we can be the last to realize that a project isn't working. We can be the last to realize that a project no longer is going to serve its purpose, that a project that was started, may have that I've started so I'll finish attitude, and we may not realize that it's time to actually regroup and take a different path and maybe cancel a project or change the project in some way. So just some tips there about watching out for those strengths. And as I say, these are trends that we tend to see more of these strengths in project managers as a group. Individual people may have any of the 24 strengths as their higher strengths. So this isn't predicting what project managers have or need, it's just pointing out that project managers as a group tend to report these more often than other people as high strengths. I want to reiterate something I mentioned yesterday, which is that the survey doesn't measure weaknesses. We are measuring the relative intensity of each of the 24 strengths. We're not measuring absences, gaps, failings, deficits. So when you see something that is lower ranked on your ranking, in the 20s, all that's saying is that that strength is less comfortable for you. It's one that you lean on less than the other strengths. It's not saying that you don't have it. And when we talk about weaknesses in relation to character strengths, the real weakness is when we misuse our strengths. So we under or overuse our strengths. And in particular, overuse of top strengths can be a cause of conflict. And I have a quick example of someone that was working on my team. They worked actually in my book, Be a Project Motivator, as one of the examples of what can happen. This particular person was in charge of design and had to review everybody's design on an IT project. And as the designs came forward, he would review the designs, give feedback.
Hi there, I hope you enjoyed that last clip. My name is Michael Maludis, and if you'd like to watch the full 60 minutes of that last webcast, while also getting complete unlimited access to our entire library of IT learning, simply visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Unlimited annual access is $199 per year, but if you use the coupon code LEARN2EARN, you can drop that membership fee to just $149. That's less than $13 per month for unlimited access to over 1,000 hours of on-demand career development, covering the entire spectrum of IT management best practices, including business analysis and requirements, software development, quality and testing, risk management, process improvement, project management, and even digital transformation. But your membership doesn't just give you unlimited access to our vast learning library. You also get free access to our mobile app, as well as direct access to our network of over 300 of the world's leading IT consultants, all of whom are dedicated to putting practical knowledge at your fingertips so that you can learn more and earn more. I hope you will join me in becoming a member of the Great IT Professional and advancing your career with us. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button above so that you get notified whenever we publish new free webcasts each week of the year. Thank you for your time and best wishes for your continued success.